everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Catalyst. And today I am joined by Stephen Jones from Grapevine podcast. Stephen is actually a part of the Economic Development Corporation in the city of Grapevine, Texas. He hosts a show called Grapevine, and they are doing amazing things. Today's is a special episode focusing on the city of Grapevine, but I want to, at the end of this show, to understand what's working in the city of Grapevine, how they're supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs there. Maybe you might find out how they became the Christmas capital of Texas. But there's a lot for you to learn here. At the end, of course, I'm going to share some grants, but you might even learn some resources as an entrepreneur. Maybe you might be interested in going to Grapevine. All right, Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, my name is Stephen Jones. I'm the Market Research Manager here in the Grapevine Economic Development Department. So we're a small department of City Hall, and I am in charge of all of our data assembly and then also using that data to tell the story of what's really going on in the city in a way that residents and stakeholders can understand. So I'm kind of the marketing communications PR arm of our little 3-person team.
So you said something, and I know we've got some questions set, but I just really honestly wanted to kind of deep dive a little bit on this. You're the marketing person and guru, but you've also incorporated podcasting into the city of Grapevine. What got you into that, and how is that working for you?
Yeah, it's a wild story. So I actually come from a radio background. I had a show here in Dallas on 103.7 KBIL, which is a legacy station that used to carry the Cowboys a long time ago. I had a weekend shift, so the kind of shift they give somebody when they're not sure if they're actually going to do a good job. And I held that for a couple of years, transitioned out into a nonprofit role, and kind of missed the audio engineering side of things. So I had hoped someday to do a podcast there, but we never had the bandwidth to do it. And when I came on board with economic development, the director at the time was one of those people who isn't himself super hip and savvy, but knows what super hip and savvy people are into. And he was like, I hear podcasts are all the rage. Can you do a podcast for me? And I said, I have some ideas. So we got to assemble the show together, and it got approved, and now we're running with it. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And if you haven't listened to Growing Grapevine, I encourage you to go listen. That explains the voice. Guys, I actually tried to get Steven to introduce my show because I'm like, I just love that voice. And I told him that. My husband listens to the show, by the way. So
good. Multiple downloads per house is what we're after.
Yes. And what really attracted me to that show is the way you present Grapevine. And I was telling you on a recent conversation that I learned so much, not just about what's going on, which is why I wanted to collaborate with you on this, but also how things work, from the city point of view, from the economic development point of view. And I learned how just events like, being a Christmas capital of Texas, how that affects property tax in the city of Grapevine. And we'll delve into that. But first, I have a few questions for you, just 3, and we'll come back to that. But I'm honestly a fan of your show and really honored for you to be here. So my first question is, can you tell us a little, because, we're all about small business growth here. Can you tell us a little bit about the small business culture of Grapevine's Main Street? And I've already said it. Tell us, please.
Yeah, so our Main Street is an authentic historic Main Street. It's some of the buildings here date back to like a previous century.
Wow.
And this is really where the community started coming together. Because at one point, Grapevine was an agrarian community. It was mostly farms. And Main Street was where everyone would come to do their trade, to sell produce or pick up the thing they needed to keep the farm running back home. And it was kind of like you'd come in on the weekends to buy all of your staple goods, and then you would go back to your homestead. And over time, Main Street sort of developed into a fully functional market all by itself. And now, through efforts from city leadership over the last couple of decades, they've really preserved that area. They've kept a lot of the original buildings and added new buildings that are designed to incorporate smoothly with them. So it all looks like a cohesive whole. And that just creates this really charming, authentic environment that's hard to find nowadays. And naturally, everybody wants to have a business there because we get a lot of foot traffic. But most of the users in that area are small businesses, because a lot of the property owners are owners who've been in that area for decades, even before we were a tourist attraction and destination. A lot of them, their ownership dates back to before the arrival of DFW International Airport, or closely thereafter, before Main Street was the hustling, bustling place it is, before we had all of the destination hotels that feed people into Main Street. And so a lot of those businesses are tenured. They've been here a really long time, and they're deeply invested in the community. So we have this wonderful fraternity of vendors. In fact, there's an organization called the Historic Downtown Grapevine Association, which is independent volunteer organization. They all come together once a month just to talk about what's going on, how can we help each other? And then the city's involved there too. We have representatives from our emergency first responders, from our Convention and Visitors Bureau, from our Parks Department, all there to answer questions and to help build the programs that they need to keep Main Street the charming, magnetic place that it is.
That's pretty cool. So I alluded to this earlier, and for those of you who don't know, Grapevine is actually officially and copyrightedly the Christmas capital of Texas. Tell us a little about that and its impact on small business growth in Grapevine.
Yeah, so a lot of the festivals and events here in Grapevine are strategically designed to bring in those crowds. So when the airport first arrived, leaders in the city knew, hey, we're going to lose a good chunk of our taxable land base to this airport. We acknowledge that that's going to be hard for us because it means there will be fewer homes, which means less property tax. But we see this as a benefit for the whole area and community. We want to do what's right for them. And we also see it as something we can leverage strategically. We're going to get a lot more visitors now. We should build a destination entertainment economy. So they started really building around that and structured the city around sales tax revenue rather than property tax revenue, which is the more common system here in Texas. Normally, most of your budget's going to come from the residents. We really generate most of our revenue from visitors who come in and spend, and then use that money to benefit the residents, which helps create the culture that draws visitors back in. So the historic district in particular is one of those key destinations. A lot of people will see it as the heart and soul of the city because it is the iconic place that you think of. It's the place you want to come visit. There's kind of a vibe in the air. Everyone's really friendly. And we know it's important to maintain that area to help draw people in. So we've done a lot to really develop that area, to maintain it. And then one of the things that our Convention and Visitors Bureau recognized early on was there are times in the year where we get steady traffic, and there's times in the year where those foot traffic, all those visitors kind of fade away. And they very intentionally installed events, activations, and festivals in those months where we weren't seeing a lot of people checking into the hotels or walking on Main Street to help push those numbers back up. So we now have two major festivals. We have Main Street Fest every May, and then Great Fest every September. And then we have the Christmas Capital of Texas activation. And that is a really prime example of the collision of strategic thinking and authentic dedication to our history. So the vendors on Main Street have always done little community markets, and they always decorated for Christmas. But it wasn't until we were really leaning into being a destination economy that our leaders thought we should take this to another level. So one of our council members, who's been on the council for decades now, really pushed to expand the decoration budget, to turn it into a winter wonderland. And now we get visitors that say, like, it's a Hallmark movie when you walk on Main Street. It's incredible. So they started activating it in that way. Our Convention and Visitors Bureau started really advertising it, pushing it, and they now have, they say, 400 events in 1,400 events in 40 days.
In 40 days, yes.
Which is an undercount. It just sounds better to say 1,400. If you actually add up all of the like movie showings and photo ops and all the things that they're doing around the city, it's well over 1,400 events. But in that 40-day span from the Monday before Thanksgiving to actually a week after the new year, we just really activate that area. And the business owners have come not necessarily to depend on that, but to take advantage of it and to leverage it for their growth. So a lot of small businesses, you probably are aware, come into those last couple months of the year and it's really make or break, especially if you're a retail business. That's where everybody kind of gets into the black, right? To have a reliable crowd surge to help get you over the finish line means a lot to them. And most of them, one, take great pride in decorating their storefront, being part of the Christmas magic. And then two, know how to not only convert those visitors into one-time sales, but to start building that relationship with them so that they come back time and again, and maybe not even just at Christmas. The Christmas capital of Texas is something that we trademarked and then pursued a declaration on. So we declared ourselves the Christmas capital. We thought we had a pretty good case. We sent some representatives down to the state legislature. They made that case, and the state legislature was like, yeah, really hard to argue with 1,400 events in 40 days. You are the official Christmas capital of Texas. And we've actually had some other business owners sort of copy that model. So if you listen to our podcast, one of the most recent episodes is an interview with a couple of restaurant owners in the historic district. And one of them trademarked the phrase margarita capital of Texas because he was inspired by our Christmas capital of Texas. And he decided, well, I should just be the margarita capital. So it says it on his logo, in all his flyers. And in our interview, he said, I put those flyers in every hotel in the area. If you're staying at a conference, do you think you're going to Chili's? Do you think you're going to the margarita capital of Texas for dinner?
Oh my gosh. I did listen to that episode. That's true. Oh my gosh. That is so neat. I love it. Just the ripple effect of you branding yourself as a city and then businesses just holding on to that and then copying it to their benefit. That's awesome.
Yeah. The people here are really proud of this city, and they are so happy to copy the things we do well and to let us know where we can improve. And I think there's a good back and forth between residents and council, and then council obviously directs the staff to do some really incredible things. And I think that open lane of dialogue is an essential part of our success.
And for a city of 50,000, you are doing amazing. I mean, I know you know it, but I want our audience to just remember that, like, it's not easy to be that small and yet be as effective as you are and as attractive as you've built the city to be. What can we look forward to this year? Honestly, I'm already looking forward to Christmas because Grapevine's definitely going to be one of my stops this year. But what are the elves doing already?
And that's what's really fascinating about this, right? Is to execute on the level that they do, all of our departments really have to start thinking about Christmas on January 1st. So they are already planning what Christmas in December of this year is going to look like. And we just closed out February. They are thinking about strategically what they want to do, how they can make changes. They're probably getting to work repairing some of the decorations that maybe got a little too much love over the last season. And then you'll start seeing them in October, our parks department, because it's actually our irrigation crew that does a lot of the decorating on Main Street. They'll start staging some of the decoration, and they kind of start with the things that are more subtle, like they'll start wrapping trees. They just won't light them. And they'll roll out a couple ornaments here and there. And then as we get closer and closer, you'll start seeing like massive reindeer showing up and big photo ops and really rolling it all out. And this is something that the community has bought all into. Everybody does their part. So the parks department does some decorations. The individual business owners do decorations. A lot of people who aren't on Main Street know that Christmas is coming. So even our major hotels have holiday themed activations. The Great Wolf Lodge gets a makeover. Gaylord does their annual ice exhibition where they bring in these ice carvers from China that, like, this is their expertise and they can do unimaginable things just with ice and chainsaws. They really create this wonderful magical environment. And obviously our Convention and Visitors Bureau helps to program it, create the events. I think they actually have a portion of the area that they decorate too. And then they partner with some sponsors to get some extra dollars behind those decorations to really turn it into something just astonishing.
And if I remember correctly, and I think you may have alluded to this or even mentioned it, because you're pushing these businesses over because of the traffic that you get, because you get millions. If I remember correctly, about 2 million or more. Am I on the numbering right now?
So the city as a whole had about 2 million visitors from November through the end of the year in 2024.
Just in those 40 days. And because of that traffic, not only are you putting businesses in the black, but you are generating so much revenue that you have not had to increase your property tax, which is a big deal if you live in Texas, in so many years, right?
Yeah, that's one of the strategic directions of our council. Our mayor is one of the longest serving mayors in the United States. This will be his 50th year in office.
Oh my gosh.
That he's been stringently dedicated to keeping the property tax as low as he can. We've in fact lowered our share of the property tax over the course of his time in office, trying to get it as low as we can. And we are, for a full service city of our size, we have the lowest rate in DFW. There's one city outside of DFW that has a slightly lower rate, but they have a lot of oil money. So we kind of understand how they're pulling that off. But that's one of the things that he's really dedicated to, is he wants Grapevine residents and Grapevine businesses to be able to keep the majority of their money invested in the things that they're doing. Now, obviously, there's other taxes involved. We have a really great school district. They need to be funded. I don't think the residents mind funding incredible schools for their kids, though.
No, I don't think so.
Hey there, if you're just joining us, this is Small Biz Catalyst. We would like to invite you into our Tag a Business team. Here's what you need to do. Nominate a small business of your choice, tag them on our website at smallbizcatalyst.org. That's small, BIZCATALYST.org. Tell us your name, give us your email address, because that's how we'll be able to tell you if you're a winner or not. And then give us a website to a business of your choice. It could be your business or somebody else's. Once you've tagged a business, you'll be entered for a $25 drawing to a local business of your choice. We'll announce winners every month. And now, back to the show.
For those of you who don't know, Texas or even Grapevine, a lot of the businesses on Main Street are small businesses, correct?
Yes.
And so I think part of what I've learned over, just even listening to you on your podcast is that's a strategic move. Like that's one of the areas that you've actually preserved small business growth, and you're basically saving it just all for small businesses. Some of them have been there like forever and ever and ever, but I guess every now and then you do have new businesses come in, right?
Yeah. Well, it's markets turnover. Sometimes it happens. The majority of our owners have been here a really long time. And especially in the historic district, those uses are small businesses, in part because that's the council's strategic vision. They wanted a mix of uses. They wanted to have something for everybody so that you can bring the whole family out and find somewhere you can eat, find somewhere everyone can shop, not just, mom is shopping and everyone else is sitting on a bench waiting for her to be done, to have a lot of treats and fun things to do all clustered in the same area. So they intentionally wanted a variety of uses, and really the market itself has selected small businesses because Grapevine residents understand the charm of Main Street comes from that local connection. And we've had some examples in the past where large companies bought up property and wanted to move in a chain concept, which they had every right to do and they were allowed to do under the zoning ordinances. And the residents just didn't particularly care for that use and spent their dollars elsewhere and voted with their dollar. And so those uses ended up phasing out, and then more appropriate uses that really fit the charm and the vibe of the area moved in, were received well by the residents, and are thriving to this day. So it's a really great example of council and our leadership team setting the vision that they want, the community buying into that vision, and then supporting the users that really fit with it, which, circling all the way back around, is why we have the podcast. We want people to understand, what is the story of this community?
Yeah.
What is the vibe here? If you're coming in from outside and you're looking to set up a business, it's important that you understand your cultural context, the community that you're walking into, because if you can enter this community, understanding this community, and be a part of it, you will thrive here. But if you don't do your homework and you just try to come in and set up a store like it's any other store, it might be a little more difficult to win some of those residents over because they care passionately about this city.
Wow. So speaking about stores and even businesses integrating into Grapevine, is there any industry that Grapevine is looking to attract right now? And I know you did even prep for that, but just curious.
Yeah, so we are a destination economy. We thrive on hospitality, on high quality dining, and on family friendly entertainment. So those are the main targets that our department is always after. That's not to say that there's not room for everybody. We have a really diverse market here, especially because of the airport. We get a lot of warehouse and logistics companies, a lot of banking and financial systems, a lot of personal support systems, We have a lot of management here and even a couple of corporate headquarters, which is crazy. We're a city of 50,000 people, and we have the North American headquarters for Kubota just up the road.
Oh,
And then a regional headquarters for Paycom, a lot of really great corporate users. So everyone can find their place here, but the things that we're really after are those things that pull in visitors, the things that you see open and you think, oh man, I got to take a trip to Grapevine because I need to see what that's like.
I definitely do need to see more about Grapevine. And I didn't share this with you in any of our conversations, but my husband and I, we go on dates every now and then. And so one Sunday, we didn't have a place planned. And so we were driving and I said, why don't we stop in Grapevine? And we ended up just taking a walk. And I don't know if we were on Main Street, but I just knew that Grapevine was just one of those places. I think we parked by the visitor center. It was late enough in the evening that things were kind of closing down, but it wasn't too late for people to be out there. And so we just enjoyed walking down the street as far as we could go, just enjoying the scenery. And, of course, we were much busy talking than doing anything else. So we didn't do a lot of shopping, but it was definitely fun. And Grapevine is one of those places where I feel you can, there's a lot to do. And I remember many years ago, just even going on Grapevine Lake with a few friends in the summer on a boat ride. And yeah, there was a challenge on that. And I was crazy enough to do some things and that no one expected. But I was also young enough to do those. But basically went far beyond where everyone expected. But it was fun. I was in my 20s back then. So, well, good to be young. I do have a bonus question for you. What advice do you have for today's entrepreneur?
Oh man, it's such an interesting time to be an entrepreneur here in the US and really probably all over the world. We have seen just an incredible boom in entrepreneurship over the last few years. And I think you can point to a lot of factors on that. I think a lot of it had to do with when the pandemic came through, people kind of reorganized their priorities. And a lot of them thought, I'm pretty good at what I do. I should go into business for myself. So that's great to see. We love entrepreneurship. I think that's kind of, not to be cliche, but that's the lifeblood of the American economy, right? That's what we run on. And the more you can get passionate people doing what they're good at, competing with one another in a friendly way. And that's one of the beauties of Main Street is that everybody there is theoretically a competitor, but they all support each other. There's no, I'm going to mark my shrimp down another $1 so that I have the cheapest shrimp. And then they argue about it. And in fact, a lot of them very intentionally build their menus to not compete with each other. They want to all offer something that coordinates well. So
that's awesome.
I think for an entrepreneur, having your passion, knowing what you do well, and then picking a site that supports you in doing that is really key. And we get a lot of interest in Main Street. It's really hard to find people a space to move into Main Street because the demand is so high. It tends to, sometimes there's a new user lined up before we even know that a lease is going to expire because people are so passionate about it. But speaking with the CEO of our Chamber of Commerce, one of the things she cautions is, everybody thinks their business is just going to take off and everyone will come through the doors, and you definitely will get more walk-through traffic on Main Street or even out in I hesitate even to call it a mall because it has evolved so far beyond a mall, but our shopping center, Grapevine Mills, is a great place to launch too. Those are places that you're going to get a lot of foot traffic. You're going to get people walking by, but you can't just expect for things to take off. So one of the things our chamber CEO, Radonna Hessel, always says is you need to come in with at least a 3-year plan. You need to not expect to make a profit for those first 2 years. You're just getting yourself established. You're getting your roots down. You're building your relationships in the community. And you need to do a whole lot of marketing because you might think you're visible. You go to your store every day. So of course, you know where and what you do and everything you do. To a passerby, it's harder to know what you're doing. So really investing up front in knowing the community, being known by the community, I think is essential for success. And it's one of the things that we do really well here in Grapevine. And our department obviously would be happy to help you settle in if you think that this neighborhood is right for you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think as entrepreneurs, we go with a lot of great enthusiasm and things. And there's always that shock. Oh my gosh, it's a year and what's happening? This is not what I expected. And for some people, maybe that shock doesn't really, they're lucky to not have to granted, depending on how they went in. But yeah, that's great advice. I love it. Be prepared, have a 3-year plan, have a long-term plan, and have a short-term plan. But yes, obviously, let people know where you are. Thank you so much for being on the Small Biz Catalyst and for allowing me to collaborate with you. And I can't wait to kind of see, how this goes. Guys, if you are not in the DFW area, you've definitely got to visit Grapevine. There's a lot going on there. And please join me for Christmas. I'm going to be there for Christmas, one of those 40 days.
We'll see everyone out there in their matching Christmas pajamas.
Ooh, that would be so much fun. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for being on here. This has been fun to collaborate with you and just learn more about the Christmas capital of Texas, its impact on small business growth, and what you guys are doing in the city of Grapevine. Now I'm sold. So if you haven't listened to Growing Grapevine, you're definitely going to enjoy it. I mean, listen to that radio voice. Now I know your circuit. I'm like, I thought you had great voice, but now I know you've got years of practice in that industry. So definitely go listen to Growing Grapevine. And of course, thank you for joining us today. So definitely in the show notes, we'll have links to, of course, the city of Grapevine, Growing Grapevine, the show, and maybe some things that might interest you about Grapevine, especially if you're an entrepreneur who's curious about Grapevine. Today's grant announcement is from Jober. The program types funded are employment, economic development, job-related, and business grants. This grant is nationwide. If you don't know about Jober, Jober is a provider of home service management, and they are accepting application into their Jober Grants program. Grants are available to support and shine a spotlight on the hardworking entrepreneurs within the home service sector. Applicants asked to share what sets their businesses apart in the areas of excellent service, leadership, business acumen, and community support, and how they would further impact their local communities with funding. 15 home service businesses across 50 plus industries, including lawn care, plumbing, residential cleaning, and painting, will be awarded $150,000 in total. Finalists will be announced in August 2025. Recipients have the freedom to choose how to use the grants to support their ambitious business goals and innovative ideas. Whether a company is looking to purchase a new equipment, increase its marketing investments, launch a new service, or train their teams, funds from the Jober Grants program are designed to help small business owners be more successful. To be eligible, any home service business owner or aspiring business owner 18 years or older residing in the U.S. and Canada, excluding Québec, are eligible. The maximum grant amount is $10,000 and the deadline is June 11, 2025. Grant guidelines and applications is available at jobergrants.com. That's www.jobergrants.com.